This is Nasha Kasha, Ukrainian Almanac, 28 minutes of stories for everyone about Ukrainian life. Nasha Kasha comes to you from Radio Western on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. I'm your reporter, Stefan Andrusiak, and this is episode 225. This is the story of the Dnipro choir. It is the sixth of 6 reports I recorded in the province of Alberta in March, just before travel restrictions were initiated because of COVID-19. One evening, I was invited to attend a choir practice. You will hear audio which was recorded with the choir's permission that evening, as well as excerpts from the choir's own recorded albums.
It could happen. Good stuff. Okay, so...
Irina Shmihelsky is artistic director and conductor of the Ukrainian Dnipro ensemble of Edmonton. She took time out from leading the choir's warm-up exercises to talk to me.
I have been conducting Dnipro since 2011. I grew up in the Ukrainian community, and music was very much a part of my life.
Here in Edmonton?
Here in Edmonton. I sang in a few choirs, and that kind of encouraged me to pursue a career in music. And I had wonderful mentors along the way. I mean, the one person that had inspired me to become a conductor was actually Pukin Pani Fedorio. She's the one that encouraged me to attend a choral conductor seminar down east that was run and coordinated by Maestro Pukin and Maestro Kolasnik. And so I have spent, since that first year with him in Ancaster, subsequent years, the seminar was held in Edmonton, and I was taking part annually. So he was my mentor until his death. And even now I think of him often as I conduct. And it's very inspiring because without his direction, without his leadership skills, and he exactly knew what we needed here, he was an inspiration.
This choir has been around for 67 years?
This choir has been around, yes, for many, many years. The founder of the choir was Pokine Roman Sotakevich, and upon his untimely death, Pani Maria Deteniak was the conductor. And then she retired in 2011, and I have taken that position, having to fill big shoes after.
When I was growing up, a mixed choir meant that some people could sing and others couldn't.
Very funny. That's very good.
Мішаний хор. Дехто вміє співати, дехто не так дуже.
Yeah.
So do people need to have a basic understanding of music and have abilities here? Do they audition for you?
It's a community choir. So we don't audition. However, I do listen to every singer that is interested in joining the choir, and we do have like a 3-month probationary period, because there could be something where it is not what they thought it was going to be, and perhaps the fit isn't well. But it's not an auditioned choir per se. Like I said, it's a community choir, and we hope to encourage people to join choir and sing. I was teaching for close to 38 years. I'm just recently retired from that profession. So I'm very, very excited about being able to kind of dive wholeheartedly, full-time into this profession of being the conductor of Dnipro Choir. The whole key of having choirs and people coming to sing in choirs is the sense of community, a sense of contribution to our Ukrainian community in that way, and to take our music out into the broader community so that they understand our music and they are exposed to our music.
I don't want to wait too long before I let you hear what Dnipro sounds like in concert from the album Oratorio Sacred Dnipro, together with the Lysenko Opera Chorus, the Toronto Symphony Orchestra players under the direction of conductor the late Volodymyr Kolesnik, recorded at Massey Hall in April of 1996. This is Thus on the Land Made Holy.
My name is Orest Soltikavich. I was born in Edmonton, where I continue to live to this very day. My father was Roman Soltikavich, and he conducted the Dnipro choir from its inception in 1953 until his death in 1976. Every Monday night, the Dnipro male chorus would have the rehearsal at the Ukrainian National Federation, or UNO Hall, in downtown Edmonton. In those days, the workday would be done at 5 or 5:30 or even 6 p.m., and that meant that the men needed time to get home, eat dinner, and then travel to UNO Hall, and that's why rehearsals started at 8 p.m. The Dnipro male chorus sang it pretty well every Ukrainian concert that was held in Edmonton, and it seemed that there was one every month. At every concert, the choir looked disciplined. My father ensured that all of the stage costumes were uniform and looked professional. First, the choir used black suits and ties, and then had a uniform of jupane, sharavare, and boots. And the music was always memorized. I don't recall the choir ever singing for music. A great deal of my father's spare time was spent copying music for the choir. There were no photocopying machines in those days, so my father would have to copy music out on Gestetner sheets. Now, these sheets were made out of a fiber that would have to be etched or scratched so that the ink would pass through them in the Gestetner printing machine. After the notes were etched, my father would then have to include the lyrics. At first, he would etch the words manually, and later, when he got a Ukrainian typewriter, he would type the words onto the Gestetner sheet. Sometimes the music would come from Ukraine, and occasionally my father would have to de-Sovietize the lyrics, changing words referencing things like collective farms, tractors, and the glory of socialism. My father had a strong and confident presence on stage, and he was respected by all of the choristers. Shortly after the male chorus became a mixed choir, I became one of the choir's accompanists, and I was able to witness how he could relate to all of the singers, regardless of their ages. Now, even though by then my father was in his 60s, he still enjoyed working with young people, even those 40 years younger than himself. My father had a positive influence on many people through the years, and even almost 45 years after his death, people will still occasionally come up to me now and tell me stories about him with fond remembrance. A man, a woman, and a gently swaying canoe on a moonlit night.
Чобен хитається. From the album Dnipro Sings, conductor and artistic director Maria Detinyak recorded in Edmonton at McDougall United Church in 2009.
Okay, let's sight read. Let's see what we can recall. First of all. Ready? E.
Nasha Kasha comes to you from Radio Western 94.9 FM on the campus of Western University in London, Ontario, Canada. We're heard on CHMR 93.5 FM in St. John's, Newfoundland, on CKDU 88.1 FM in Halifax, on Local 107.3 FM in St. John, New Brunswick, on CJAS Radio 93.5 FM in Saint Augustine, Quebec, on CJLO 1690 AM in Montreal, on CFRC 101.9 FM in Kingston, on CFMU 93.3 FM in Hamilton, on CKMS 102.7 FM in Kitchener-Waterloo, on CJAM 99.1 FM in Windsor and Detroit, on CKLU 96.7 FM in Sudbury, on CILU 102.7 FM in Thunder Bay, on 101.5 UMFM in Winnipeg, on CJTR 91.3 FM in Regina, on CFMQ 98.1 FM in Hudson Bay, Saskatchewan, on CFBX 92.5 FM in Kamloops, on CIVL 101.7 FM in Abbotsford, on CJSF 90.1 FM in Vancouver, and on CHLY 101.7 FM in Nanaimo, British Columbia.
And go. Yeah, we have a seat. Rehearsal number 2.
Irina Tarnowski is Dnipro's accompanist.
And collaborative pianist. And at one point I was the assistant conductor.
Born and raised in Edmonton?
Born here, raised here, yes. My mom and dad sing with Dnipro. My brothers used to sing with Dnipro, as did my sisters-in-law. So it was a big family affair.
Does that kind of pedigree help when it comes to accompanying and sometimes directing?
No, that's all different. I have finished my 2 degrees. I have my pedagogy degree and I have my performance degrees, but I studied with Maestro Volodymyr Kolasnik.
Can you just tell people who he is in Ukrainian culture?
I sure can. Volodymyr Kolasnik was an opera conductor в Ukraine, and he worked in the Odessa Opera, and I think he worked also in Russia and Moscow. At some point around 78, 77, he was able to escape the regime and eventually made his way to Canada, and in Toronto was where he settled. So there was the Ukrainian Opera Chorus, which he worked with them for many, many years. I think that opera chorus still exists. Maybe 1 or 2 choral conducting workshops were held in Ancaster, and that was probably early 80s. Late 70s, early 80s, I believe. And then the Muzyczne Towarzystwo, the Ukrainian Music Society of Alberta, proposed that we bring this 2-week summer choral conducting course here to Edmonton. And I believe we had almost 20 years worth, where he would come every summer and we would work for two weeks. And I was, not only did I take the classes in conducting, but I was also his right hand in terms of being an accompanist. So a lot of what I learned in terms of conducting and being the collaborative accompanist was from him.
Was that daunting in any way? I mean, someone with that kind of skill set comes and you're the accompanist.
Of course, it's very daunting. There was a time where he was very demanding. And there was at one point in time, I was almost broken. And it was sort of old school, I'm going to break you and then I'm going to build you up, that kind of stuff. And I paused after one of the classes and I took him aside and I said, Pane Maestro, really, I don't have ESP. I'm not sure of exactly what you want. I think at that point, he realized that I was doing the very best I could, and він зробився трошки лагіднішим. He became a little bit gentler towards me, and he would give me time to find what he needed, this and that. But along the way, I mean, as a conductor myself, I then even with Irina, our conductor here, I know what's happening within the choir, so I'm able to support her, and she doesn't have to tell me what to do. I know exactly where to come in, where to support the groups, where if she doesn't hear maybe perhaps something that's wonky with intonation or a part that's not quite on their notes. She and I have a very good working relationship, so I'll discreetly just let her know, let's try this again.
Dnipro is a community choir.
Yes.
You played with Kolesnik.
Yes.
You've worked with, you are highly skilled. What is it like working with just folks?
Just folks. Do you know what? I've been here so long that we're all family, and I have to be supportive, and I have to sometimes, for myself, I have to be a little bit patient. From my, conductor's point of view, well, why can't they get it? But, I'm there to support. That's my function here.
Have you ever played with an out-of-tune piano?
Yes, often.
And what happens?
I just try my best. No, I try my best. The worst piano that I played with was once in a hotel, and it was with Pani Dytenyak, Maria Dytenyak. So below bass G, there were no strings for the bass notes. So I had to sort of on the spot, not really transpose, but move everything up and try to make an accompaniment out of a piano that was only a half of a piano, really.
So yesterday was Lesh's birthday, so please help yourself to the kobasa, the crackers, the wine, and Lesh's own cherry liqueur.
The man standing next to the crackers and kubasa is Marko Levitsky. Marko is choir president. He is also national affairs editor for New Pathway Ukrainian News. Marko didn't know it on this Monday in early March, but the president of Ukraine, Volodymyr Zelensky, would sign a decree on August 23, 2020. It would honor Marko for 4 decades of dedication to journalism, some of which was critical of Zelensky himself. Marko Levitsky was awarded the Cross of Ivan Mazepa. But on this night, the singing of Mnohaya Lita was for Lesya, his wife. How did you become the president of the choir?
They basically, actually, it was kind of funny because I was on leave for a year, medical leave, and the head of the nominating committee called me up and said, do you want to be on the executive? Yeah, okay. I said, okay, what position? And he said, president. Yeah, okay, I'll do it. I'll think about it, and I did it. Well, there's just a few ideas that I had about where the choir should be going, so I thought, this is a chance to implement them.
How many years have you both been involved there?
Since 2006, the choir was formed in 1953. We traveled to Ukraine. We had a couple of concerts in Lviv, and then we had a big one in Chernivtsi. And in the meantime, we had workshops with a number of choirs like Trembita in Lviv, Veryoka in Kyiv, in Zhytomyr as well. At some point we would like to appear at the Toronto Festival. We are still involved in talks with Košice about some kind of cooperation because they're celebrating their 75th soon. And Košice is the oldest choir in Canada. It was formed in 1946. So they'll be celebrating their 75th. We were formed in 1953, and we are the second oldest
Ukrainian choir.
Ukrainian choir in Canada.
In 1971, it became a mixed choir with women joining as well. Soltykevich continued until his untimely passing in 1976 when Maria Detynyak took over as conductor. And she led the choir from 1976 to 2011 when Irena Shmihelska took over and Maria Detynyak retired. Some of the highlights during the long history of Dnipro was, that was before I joined. They did an opera, Kupalo, and also Zaporozhye Dunaim with Kolesnik. They had a long relationship with Volodymyr Kolesnik. For a future, we have several options. We're looking at a trip to Brazil with some of the Ukrainian communities there.
The Dnipro Ensemble's plans for a trip to Brazil, of course, are on hold. According to data from Johns Hopkins University, only the United States has recorded more confirmed coronavirus deaths than Brazil. I asked Marko how the choristers in Dnipro are doing in a time of social distancing. He recorded this update for us.
When the COVID-19 virus hit pandemic proportions in the beginning of March, the Dnipro Ukrainian Choir of Edmonton was forced to put a lot of its plans on hold. There had been several concerts that were scheduled. These were canceled, of course, and we had to cancel rehearsals or put them aside because it's unsafe to sing. And, the restrictions are quite strenuous. I mean, you have to be much further apart than the regular physical distancing of 6 feet. And, danger of spreading droplets when you're singing is much higher than under normal circumstances. In June, however, we started a bunch of Zoom sessions. Our artistic director, Irka Shmihelska, did an excellent job of preparing a bunch of lessons, which were sort of teaching people music basic standards, plus MP3 files to study from. Now, in September, we're going to continue with the virtual program. We're going to have Zoom sessions every 2 weeks where we're going to practice a bit. And also, we're going to get a bunch of MP3 files. The idea being that we are going to have a repertoire prepared by the end of December, a repertoire of 6 new songs. There will also be Zoom sessions that will be individual sectionals, that is, with, just a certain group of people, like one voice, like bass or tenor or thing, or, a soprano. Come December and January, the new year, we'll cross that bridge when you come to it. It all depends on what the situation is. We have decided that we're not going to make any performances until we've had at least 3 months worth of regular practices, and that means physically being in a rehearsal room. Whether that'll be possible in January or not, all depends on what the situation is. And we're, following carefully what the COVID situation is, and most likely we're not going to be able to have regular rehearsals until such time as a vaccine is in place, because a lot of our members are quite vulnerable. So in the meantime, we're keeping up our spirits, keeping in contact, and praying for an end to the pandemic. And hopefully, when it's all over, we'll come back better than ever. Thank you.
In the program, you also heard Burn Kupalo Burn. It's a song about a campfire during the ancient Ukrainian rite of spring called Kupalo. Conductor Maria Detynyak, pianist Irena Tarnowski. And this is the closing Salve Magna Pater from the choir's Massey Hall concert. Conductor Volodymyr Kolesnik. I gratefully acknowledge that partial funding for Nasha Kasha is provided by the Shevchenko Foundation and by the Ukrainian Credit Union. I'm your reporter Stefan Andrusiak. Back in a week, God willing. До милої зустрічі за тиждень часу, дорогі слухачі.